Mr. President, and I welcome the distinguished presiding officer, and he's probably presided before, but this is the first time I've been on the floor seeing him preside. I realize he cannot respond to it, but I welcome him here to the Senate. Mr. President, for 26 days, President Trump has held funding for our federal government hostage. He's used as leverage to force Congress to provide $5.7 billion to build an ill-conceived, expensive, and unfortunately totally ineffective wall on the southern border. Now, we knew this was coming because for months during the campaign, he riled up his base with a chance of build the wall, build the wall. He invented a crisis at the southern border and then told his supporters that only he could solve it. And he gave his word over and over again that Mexico would pay for the wall, so American taxpayers would not have to. That was over 2 years ago, and I think he's feeling pressure now as he shudders himself in the White House. Having failed to convince both Republicans and Democrats in Congress that a campaign slogan was actually good policy, having failed, as we all knew, to convince Mexico to pay for the wall, he turns to the only negotiation tactic he seems to have mastered: bullying. He has shut down the government of the most powerful nation in the world, making us a laughingstock around the rest of the world. And he says he'll keep us shut down until he gets what he wants. Well, it's the height of irresponsibility. It certainly destroys our effectiveness in other parts of the world. He's the president of this country. And we all, Democrats and Republicans, accept he's the president. But that also means he's supposed to lead the nation, not run into the ground like so many of his businesses that had to declare bankruptcy. But he sits in the White House tweeting and watching television all day, and ignores the damaging effect his actions are having on millions of Americans of whatever political persuasion around the country. Because the shutdown not only hurts our federal workers, it's hurting America's economy. The president's own chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors estimates that gross domestic product will slow by 0.1% for every 2 weeks the government is shut down. And today, there are reports that even this estimate is too low, and the impact could be 0.1% for every week the government is shuttered. Now, those are numbers, and let me tell you a story. Let me give you an example. Small businesses employ more than 59 million people in this country. Small businesses in this country are one of the main drivers of economic growth. But every day the government is closed, the day small businesses can't get Small Business Administration-backed loans to invest and grow their companies. Last week I heard from a woman who runs a small sign company in Essex Junction, Vermont. Essex Junction is in Chittenden County outside of Burlington, Vermont. It's a beautiful, beautiful community. But it survives by small businesses that expand. And she's trying to grow her business. She's trying to acquire another one. But the SBA backs the space she's trying to purchase. And so she can't bring the sale to finality during the shutdown. So as a result, the seller is threatening to just move on. He can't get an answer from the SBA. And of course, that would throw her expansion plans into jeopardy. Now, we have many excellent craft breweries in Vermont. They bring in a lot of revenue. They hire a lot of people. They're a key part of our tourism. And I heard from one of the head brewers from one of these major craft breweries. He depends upon the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau to approve his license applications, formulas, even the labels he puts on his beer. Well, he's been brewing the beer. It's ready to be labeled. The office is closed due to the government shutdown. It's not processing applications. He wrote, "I'm one of the millions of voters whose livelihood depends on the government operating. Every day that passes without an Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau up and running is another potential day of lost sales." And farmers across this country and in Vermont are also feeling the pain of the shutdown. Just a few weeks ago, we passed a bipartisan farm bill. I was one of the conferees on that. I praised Senator Pat Roberts, Republican from Kansas, and Debbie Stabenow, Democrat from Michigan. They put together this bipartisan bill, and the president took credit when he signed it. Well, the thing is, it's a 5-year farm bill, and now the president, right after signing the farm bill, has shut the U.S. Department of Agriculture field offices to help farmers implement the law. Farmers need information now as the new planting and growing season looms. How the law is going to affect their operations heading into the planting year. But most of the staff would handle this work have been furloughed. If you're a farmer in the Midwest and you're preparing your crops, you can't say, well, we can wait a few months, maybe past the growing season, find out what the rules are going to be, and then we'll plant. No, you have to make that decision now. It also means that farmers can apply for much-needed loans. And they need these loans because you have the drop in commodity prices that were brought on by the president's tariffs. He's hit many farmers hard. They need loans to help pay their bills. Many banks aren't willing to lend to them, so they have to rely on the Department of Agriculture as the lender of last resort. But guess what happens in these multiple whammies? The offices who issue these loans are closed due to the shutdown. So they need the loans because of the president's tariffs, and the president has shut down the offices that could give them the loans. And farmers have better credit who can access other lending options. Many of their loans are also delayed by the shutdown, since the lenders are unable to confirm that the farmer has other outstanding loans from the USDA, something where they could just connect to the USDA office to ask, but it's closed. Just this week at the Farm Bureau Convention, the president loudly proclaimed how he's providing assistance to the market facilitation program to help farmers mitigate the financial losses caused by the Trump tariffs. But as of December 28th, there's no one left in the USDA county offices to process any new applications for these much-needed payments. I recently heard from a dairy farmer in what we call the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. She milks 80 cows. She's proud of her operation, but she's been hit hard by the president's trade policies that have led to retaliatory tariffs against U.S. dairy exports, and she's now behind on her electric bill. The electric company is threatening to turn off her power to her home, to her barn, to her milk parlor, to her milking machines. She received one installment from the Market Facilitation Program to help mitigate the effects of the Trump tariffs, but she hasn't received the second installment because of the Trump shutdown. The second installment is needed to help her pay her bills. She says she'll be in much better shape with the new dairy margin coverage program for the new Farm Bill. And I applaud Senator Pat Roberts and Senator Debbie Stabenow for ushering that through in an almost unanimous vote. But unfortunately, no work is being done to get the program up and running because of the government shutdown. She's frustrated. She's worried about her future. She's looking for help. She's an honest, hardworking person, and she's stymied. I don't blame her. Implementation of the Farm Bill, which I spent more than a year working on. I was in the committee conference. I worked hard on that to deliver for Vermont and our nation's farmers on a wide range of key priorities, especially our struggling dairy farmers. It's now on hold during the shutdown with nearly every USDA agency furloughed. This is the life in the age of the Trump shutdown. The president says shutting down the government, paralyzing our country, is necessary to address a growing crisis on our southern border. But the only crisis we have in our country right now is the one caused by the Trump shutdown. The crisis we face is not at our southern border, but at kitchen tables and family farms, small businesses across the country. As families hurt by the Trump shutdown try to figure out how to make ends meet. The president talks of hordes of illegal immigrants rushing across our borders, but border apprehensions have dropped 75% since 2000. The majority of people apprehended at our borders today are families, women and children, fleeing violence in their own country. They deserve our compassion, not vitriol. Many people in this country illegally as a result of visa overstays. There's more people as a result of visa overstays than from illegal border crossings. This wall does nothing to address that. To address our complex immigration issues, we need comprehensive legislation based on facts, not bumper sticker slogans. We all support strong border security. Every Democrat, every Republican does. In fact, working on a bipartisan basis in the last fiscal year, Democrats and Republicans supported $21.1 billion for border security and immigration enforcement, and followed on a similar investment we made in fiscal year 2017. I know that as Vice Chairman, the Appropriations Committee, we invested in our ports of entry, including the purchase of non-intrusive inspection equipment to detect illicit contraband. We invested in aircraft needed to monitor our sprawling border from above, quickly respond to emergencies. We invested in video surveillance systems, radar systems to detect movement in remote location. These are solutions that work. These are smart uses of taxpayers' dollars. A 30-foot wall that Mexico won't pay for is not a good solution. So the shutdown is not about border security. If this was about border security, we'd do it today. The Trump shutdown is about a president trying to distract America from his failures as a leader and shore up the support of his base is shameful. It's clear President Trump will not do the right thing on his own, so it's time for Senate Republicans to step up. Just yesterday morning, Democrats asked unanimous consent to take up 2 bills that would get this government back open. A 6-bill minibus that has bipartisan support, including 4 bills that passed the Republican-controlled Senate 96-2. Virtually every Republican voted for it. And a continuing resolution for the Homeland Security Department through February 8th. And even though virtually every Republican has voted for this, the Republican leader objected to going forward. And if they continue to object to reopening the government, the shutdown is as much on them as it is on the president. We have bipartisan bills before us that could reopen the government. We could vote on them today. They'd pass with veto-proof margins. Leader McConnell, bring up these bills. Let's vote to end this national nightmare. Madam President, I yield the floor.